guys, so we are back. It's been a while since the last video. If you did watch that last video, you will know that I had a little bit of an incident with my arm. I actually broke my arm. The day, I believe it was the day after my last video, I had surgery on my arm, and just the day before yesterday, I actually went back in for an x-ray, got the staples taken out, and everything went well. All the soreness is gone, so I'll be getting back to uploading videos on a more of a regular basis. I will be in this cast for the next 4 weeks. My daughter picked the color, by the way, but anyway, everything's good with the arm. So today we are going to be taking a look at a watch. I've been meaning to review this for quite a while. I've had it for quite a while. This is the SRP637, the Baby Tuna. Just an awesome watch. So let's spin the camera around and take a look at the Seiko Tuna. Alright guys, so right off the bat in the background we have just our typical box and paperwork that would normally come with Seikos. I've had a lot of these on the channel lately, so I won't bore you with going through all of the packaging. So we're going to jump right into some of the specifications and measurements here on the Baby Tuna, and we'll start with the case width. So the case size on this is just a little over 47 millimeters. Lug to lug is right around 50 millimeters. We have a lug width of 22 millimeters, and the thickness of the watch is just a little under 14 millimeters. So obviously this watch is on the larger side of things, and I will say though that just the way that the shroud kind of angles towards the top of the watch, it fits quite a bit smaller than the 47 millimeter size suggests it would. And hey, it's a Tuna, they're meant to be a little on the chunky side. It is a tool watch after all. So the crystal here, we have the Hardlex crystal. The watch is housing the tried and true 4R36 Seiko movement, which for me has been gaining about 8 or 9 seconds per day on wrist. So for any of the Seiko Monster owners out there, you will immediately recognize the bracelet. It's the exact bracelet Seiko's been using on their Monster lineup. And I'll have to be honest and say, until I actually experienced one of these, this is actually the third watch with this bracelet that I've had, but until I actually experienced one, I wasn't crazy about the look. Just the design kind of looked clunky. Until I actually experienced one, I just fell in love. I find that the design just goes so nice with these tool diver watches, these rugged looking watches. Just suits the overall look. I will say the quality of the bracelet, it's pretty standard issue Seiko fare. The bracelet itself isn't bad. The finishing is quite well done, but it's the clasp where the quality sort of goes downhill. You'll see here that it is just stamped steel. We also have a diver's extension there. It is a little rattly. That all goes away on wrist though. Once you have it on wrist, it doesn't feel bad at all. It's quite comfortable actually. I have tried this watch on a few different straps, a couple of different rubber straps, a couple of NATOs. It looked good on a NATO, but the NATO wasn't quite strong enough to hold the weight of this watch. It moved around a little bit too much for my liking. But I just kept coming back to this bracelet. I just find that it's just the best option for this watch. I have not tried it on mesh yet. I think it would look awesome on mesh, so I may try that here in the future. The dial is a flat black with some really nice crisp print work done with Seiko at the 12 o'clock position. We have the Prospex logo as well as Automatic Divers 200 at 6. And also we have markings for the minutes at each hour marker. We have the date at 3 o'clock as well as this really cool raised chaptering, adding some nice depth and dimension to the dial. And I really like the cutouts on the chaptering for the hour markers. So like the bracelet, the other common denominator that this watch shares with the Monster, as well as a few other Seikos, is the handset. We have that nice broad arrow hand as well as the broad arrow hour hand as well as the sword minute hand, and I like how they've blacked out the entire seconds hand other than just the tip, which is in white. Now along with the handset, the hour markers are applied with a heavy dose of Lume, and you'll see the hour markers here are also framed nicely in stainless steel. So we cannot talk about a Seiko diver without taking a look at the Lume, so let me throw a shot of that up here now. So as usual, at least for any of the Seiko divers that I've ever owned, we have some very strong Lume, and this is one that is actually ridiculously strong. I think this is probably the strongest Lume, Seiko or otherwise, that I've ever experienced firsthand. It is insane. Easily lasts all night long. I mean, it does fade a little bit, but it's quite visible after quite a few hours. The thing that I love about this watch is when you come inside from a nice sunshiny day and come into the house and it glows quite bright, even in fairly full light. The Lume just blows me away with this thing. Even if you just look here, if I put my hand up to the watch, you'll see that it'll actually light up my hand quite a bit. And just totally impressed. I'm not sure if you could make that out or not, but totally impressed with the Lume. And check this out. I'll actually charge it up fully here with my flashlight so you guys can see. Check that out. Awesome Lume. Alright guys, so while my arm recovers like the last video, I've hired my daughter Fiona on as the resident bezel expert. She's going to help me demonstrate the bezel here on the Baby Tuna. So the bezel is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. The one issue with this bezel over any other Seiko bezel that I've had is I find this bezel to be much stiffer than the rest. I've checked on a couple of the forums. You'd probably see Fiona struggling a little bit with it there, but I've checked on a couple of forums to see if this was maybe a one-off, but I've seen other people with the same complaint. It's not horrible, but it's definitely a bit of a different feel compared to what you might be used to with other Seiko divers. Other than that, it doesn't have any major alignment issues, and I really like the look of the all steel bezel on this watch. So with this watch, and for that matter any watch in the Tuna family, it's the case and shroud that really give these watches their personality. The shroud just gives this thing such a tooly, rugged look. It's screwed to the case with these 3 hex screws. There's 2 on this side and 1 over here. They are polished, while the entirety of the shroud is brushed stainless steel, and for that matter the entire case is brushed, other than between the lugs as well as the case back. At 4 o'clock the shroud is cut out here for the screw down crown. It's unsigned with some really deep knurling, making for easy grip and operation. I should also mention the shroud has just a very slight bevel along the bottom so as to not dig into the wrist. If we flip the watch upside down here, you'll see we have the Tsunami Wave logo embossed, as well as Seiko Air Diver 200 meters, the Prospex logo, and some reference numbers etched around the perimeter of the case back. So let me just pop this guy on wrist here for a second for you guys. Alright, so check it out. This thing is awesome. I just love the look of this. It's kind of hard to tell. I think even looking through the viewfinder here, it does look fairly big on wrist. I think if I zoomed out, the proportions would look a little bit better. One thing I find with this watch, like I mentioned before, I find it doesn't wear its size. It is a 47 millimeter watch, but if you look at it straight on, I think your eyes draw more to the bezel and inward, so it seems to lose a couple of millimeters. As well, like I mentioned, the shroud is sort of angled up and in towards the top of the watch, and also the short lugs sort of help that as well. And I don't know what it is, but I think it was Jeffrey McMahon. He was talking about, he's got a ton of Seiko Tuna videos out there, as well as some other really good stuff, and I'll actually leave a link to his channel in the description below. But he was talking about how Seiko does such a good job at making these larger watches wearable, and it's true, there's so many that I was a little bit intimidated at first just by the size, but once you're able to try one on, and that's what I'd recommend for anybody intimidated by these watches, is go out and try one on, because they do fit a lot nicer than their specs might suggest. So anyway, I think overall this thing is just an awesome watch. I've been wearing this a ton. I've been meaning to do this review for quite a while, so I've had this for a few months now, and just love it. I can't recommend it enough. So that's going to be it. We'll spin the camera around and we'll wrap up today's video. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed today's video, and hopefully it was helpful for anybody that might be considering purchasing the SRP637. In between videos, you can also find me at TimeToGo 1978 on Instagram, where I post a lot of watch content. You'll get a glimpse at some of the watches that are maybe coming up for review. And also, a few weeks back, I joined up with a group of guys on Instagram. You can find them at Rewatch Team. I'll leave a link below. And what we do is we come up with a theme for a photography contest through Instagram every week. Sometimes there's giveaways, sometimes it's just for bragging rights, but it's a lot of fun. So go check that out if you're on Instagram. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.